Hello, everyone. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Paul. Paul is from Dorset in England, in the UK. So let's see what Paul has to say. Enjoy the interview. So, hello, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for taking the time today for the interview. Thank you.
That's quite all right. It's taken a little while, but we got
I know we got there. We meant to have the interview today.
there.
So, tell me, how's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's been all right. It's been pretty relaxed. Not too much to report really. I did a TikTok live earlier, which was all right. Made some cracking poached eggs on toast, and that's about it.
Nice. Very nice. So, tell me, how was your live on TikTok a bit earlier?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, not too bad. I just do like a live Q&A. I tend to do sort of two or three a week. And just jump on and answer any questions that come through that are worth answering. And tend to ignore any of the random comments that you get from people when you do a live on TikTok.
So tell me what was the most, let's say, interesting question that you had today on your live. There is a question that got you thinking.
um, I mean, they're often quite sort of similar. The questions it's quite heavily centered around helping with people with fat loss and what have you. I'd say probably the best two topics of conversation that came up today. A couple around some supplements. L-carnitine seems to be quite a popular one at the moment, and
Mhm.
creatine, which is always a popular one. I also quite enjoyed there was a couple of people were asking questions around like the thermic effect of food, which is always quite interesting. Asking which foods are obviously the most satiating and stuff. So it was quite good to kind of get into a bit more detail than the traditional, because most of the questions were around trying to lose like body fat and you know belly fat and that kind of stuff, and it's very similar sort of stuff. So it was quite cool that there were people kind of asking slightly more in-depth questions actually, which is quite good.
Amazing. So Paul, tell me where you're from.
So I'm from the UK, from Dorset, just
Hmm.
yeah, sort of between Poole and Bournemouth. So
Tell me something interesting about Dorset. Tell me something that stands out compared with other places in the UK.
I mean, to be fair, the fun fact of it's not a fun fact. That's a terrible way of putting it. A fact about Dorset: it's the only county that doesn't have a motorway running through it. Uh,
Interesting.
and I'm biased, but I think it's like the best place in the country to live because we've got a mix of everything. We've got some of the UK's best beaches. We've got
Okay.
countryside. We've got national forest.
Wow.
We've got some pretty big towns. So we've got pretty much like a mix of just about everything. So yeah, it's a pretty good place to be.
How far are you from the beach?
About a 10-15 minute drive.
Wow, very lucky.
Not far at all.
And
It's
that's the place you were born and raised?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So I was born in Poole and grew up in a town called Wimborne, which is probably sort of about 10 minutes away from Poole. I did move away a little bit when I was sort of 18, 19, moved away for a couple of years to Surrey and then came back and I've been back ever since.
I see. So tell me about your career, Paul. I believe you are a fitness trainer, yeah?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I'm an online coach. I
Mhm,
run a coaching academy called the Redefine Academy.
mhm.
I've been coaching now for just over 5 years. Um, Before that, I was doing something completely different. I was selling software to the NHS, um,
Well,
and yeah, getting paid an absolute fortune to do something that I really didn't like, and just yeah, uh, got to a point where I sort of I, I couldn't ignore the fact that I wanted to get into coaching, so I did my qualifications sort of in my spare time, and then started coaching part time, and it sort
mhm.
of grew to a point where it was getting too busy to ignore, so I took the plunge and gave up
Wow.
the day job to become a coach.
And before you started your career in the fitness world, were you already a gym guy or not? Everything came all together.
Yeah, so I've been training in the gym since I was about sort of 17, 16, 17. On and off a little bit. Sort of, I didn't really get properly into training, I'd say, until like my early 20s, early to mid 20s. And then
Mhm.
I've trained pretty consistently from then onwards, really, barring a couple of injuries that have kept me out of the game for a little bit. But other than that, it's been pretty consistent for the last 10 plus years.
Amazing. Right, so during the journey, I'm going to explore a little bit more about your career and also about your life overall, okay?
Yeah.
So before we start our journey within the Magic Box, I would like you to tell me something interesting about yourself or something that not many people know about you.
Oh, these questions are always so difficult because it's like they're so broad. It's like, tell me something about you. There's loads of things about me. I mean, something that surprises a lot of people, given the fact that I'm not the tallest, is up until the age of 16, I represented my county playing basketball, and I was very short at the time. So that's something that a lot of people don't believe when I say that I played for my county as a basketball player up until I was about 16.
Oh, wow. And basketball was your favorite sport growing up?
One of many. So football is probably my favorite sport. I've played that pretty much my entire life, as far back as I can remember. But I've always just played pretty much every sport going. I've played basketball, cricket, football. I've played a little bit of rugby, but again, I was very short when I was growing up, so rugby wasn't really my idea of fun because it just felt like I was getting beaten up. So yeah, but pretty much any sport you can do, I've probably tried it once or twice.
How tall are you?
Now I'm sort of between 5'8" and 5'9", so
Okay.
a respectable average height. But when I was growing up, I was always really short.
Amazing. Well, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point of views?
Cool.
Amazing. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. So I've got here my best. Full of random fun questions, okay? I'm just gonna play a song now just for us to relax a bit before the first question, right?
Cool.
Let's do it. Right, so before we start the game, during the journey, if it comes up a question that you don't want to talk about, some reason you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Cool. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
First question for you is, what does family mean to you?
That's a good question. I think family is quite often people think it's just blood relatives, but I'm a firm believer that like your friends are the family that you get to choose, and actually that blood relatives aren't always an encapsulation of what family actually is. I think family are the people that kind of stick by you through thick and thin, people that you can learn from, people that help you to grow and encourage you to become like a better person.
Mhm.
So they don't always have to be a relative. Obviously, there's that age-old phrase of like blood is thicker than water. So there's always going to be that connection between the people that you are actually like physically related to. But yeah, I think for me, family are the people that you turn to when you need somebody, who you can call upon, who support you, who make you strive to be the best person you can be. And I don't think it's always limited to just the people that you're related to by blood. I think it's, like I said, friends are the family that you get to choose.
For sure, I totally agree as well. Besides your chosen family, which person in your family that you feel more close to?
In my family, so I mean, obviously, there's the obvious one. My wife is obviously the person I probably feel closest to. Outside of that, I've always been really close with my mum. Really close with my mum. Growing up, I was very, very close with my granddad. Obviously, he passed away when it was about 10 or 11.
Yep.
But yeah, obviously, before he passed away, I was very close with my granddad. Yeah, I would say they're probably the big three.
Wow. As you can see, your eyes shining talking about your wife right now. So let's see, she's watching this interview right now and you have a moment or opportunity to send her a message. What would you say?
Um, that's putting me on the spot. I would say the kind of thing I say quite frequently in terms of how grateful I am in terms of like the support that she gives, because it's it's not easy being in a relationship with me. I've got ADHD. I do things differently to how a lot of people would do things. I make decisions that a lot of people probably think are a bit left field, and I can understand that it perhaps brings a degree of stress. But despite that, like she's always very supportive. and encourages me to kind of be myself and whatever you say. Yeah, I'd just be yeah, just let her know that I'm grateful for that, and for yeah, not looking at me and thinking that I'm an idiot, and and yeah, embracing it.
Amazing. I think have someone by our side supporting us in our career, in our daily basis. You know, as you said, besides our, our crazy way of sometimes, when have someone by our side, it makes a big difference. I
Yeah.
believe that for sure. Next question. Let's do it. Hey, Paul. Next question is. I think this one's gonna be quite easy for you. Who makes you laugh the most?
Um, I mean, selfishly, almost myself, which I know is that probably sounds really egotistical, but I literally laugh at myself all the time.
Easy.
Uh, my wife makes me laugh every single day. But then again, my a couple of my closest friends equally just provide endless things to laugh at. So my buddy Simon, there's not a day that goes by where he doesn't send me a catalogue of memes through through Instagram. So yeah, I would say that little collection of people are the ones that probably make me laugh the most regularly.
Wow. It's interesting when you are able to make yourself laugh. It's a gift. I think it's great. Funny enough, today I was walking the streets and I was literally like making fun of myself, like literally thinking about some thoughts. It's like, oh my god, that's crazy. I think
Yeah.
it's amazing. When you analyze yourself, when you think about yourself, what's the best part of being Paul? What do you like the most about being you?
This is quite a hard question for me because I'm someone who doesn't have the greatest level of like self-esteem,
Hmm.
um, and I'm very like self-critical. That being said, I would say certainly based on what I've seen over the last like 5 years since going like self-employed and obviously like pushing for my business, I would say the a quality that I like about myself is my determination. Is the fact that
Hmm.
if I put my mind to something, like I won't stop until I've achieved what I'm after. Um,
Hmm.
so I'd say it's probably yeah, that's probably one of my strongest qualities is that relentlessness to pursue something if I believe in it. From that perspective, um, yeah, I'll go with that.
And you always have this way of it's this mindset of being really, a go after your dreams all the time.
Yeah, I would say so. I would definitely say I've always been very like driven, very ambitious.
Hmm.
Always try to achieve things as as I guess as a combination as quickly as possible, but also like as best as possible. For me, it's that combination of quality and quantity, so to speak. So it's not just about doing things quickly, because I think again, if you rush certain things, you do a shit job. There's a level in terms of um, perfectionism that I always sort of push for as well. But yeah, I like to be ambitious, and I've always been very driven and kind of throw myself headfirst into things and just yeah. The easiest way to learn is to throw yourself in at the deep end and swim.
Amazing, very good. Next one, let's do it. Okay, Paul. Before the next question, tell me two questions in one. The first part of the question is how your career started. Tell me the moment when you realized, okay, I'm going to focus, as an online coach. Did something happen, or you just felt like, okay, it's part of it? And the other part of the question is, what's the biggest joy for you when you are, doing your job, when you are coaching people, helping people? Tell me the biggest joy of it.
Yeah, so this is a nice easy one. So for me, the I'd always wanted to go into coaching. I'd say probably from the minute I started taking my training more seriously, I always kind of envisaged this would be something I would do. I always felt a bit stuck because where I was being paid incredibly well doing the job that I was doing, it was that financial security is a lot to give up. It's a lot to walk away from. So I always wanted to, but almost felt like it was going to be near impossible because to qualify, it took me a long time to find a course that I could do in my spare time. Um, and then obviously once I found that and I was able to qualify, I was sort of doing it on the side, and you always sort of feel like it was a bit of a pipe dream that, you know, to get to where I am today. Um, but it kind of got to a point where I was coaching alongside my day job, and the two were pretty much like conflicting against each other. There was the obvious requirements and pressures that come from having a job, um, but there were also the pressures that were coming from the fact I was working with a good number of clients. The business was building. I needed to spend more time in it, and I kind of got to a bit of a crossroads professionally, in that I'd worked for a company for near on 9 years. It had gone quite sour. They weren't the best company to work for. I lost the desire to work there, because every time I overachieved, it almost reflected negatively, because the business weren't too keen to celebrate the success. They kind of made me fight for commission and things like that. So I left, and I went and ended up working for a very similar company in a similar space. And it became really apparent in the 18 months that I was there that, you know, I changed companies to a much nicer company. I got on with everybody I worked with. It was a really nice environment, but I still wasn't happy doing what I was doing. So I started to realize that it's, you know, it perhaps wasn't the people that was ruining the job. It was just the fact that it wasn't what I wanted to do. It didn't really align with me. And I kind of got to a point where I'd had a one-to-one meeting with the managing director. We'd gone through like my pipeline and gone through everything, and it was right around the time of Brexit, and I was dealing with public sector, and it was a hard time to be in sales with the public sector. And so I was going through the deals that I was working on, timelines, when were they expected to close, going through justifications for a few deals that hadn't closed when they were supposed to. And the MD was, it was really like really good guy. Really got on with him, but he posed the question that, kind of looked at things as if to be like Brexit wasn't a justifiable excuse because it was affecting everybody. So he said, you know, in a month's time when we go through the pipeline, here's a load of things that I want to see from you. And obviously, if we're not seeing it, then we might have to have a separate discussion. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. The business got bought by a large American company, and I just got to a point where my business was starting to really take off, and my job, I was losing the interest. Like I wasn't as driven as I used to be. Like I used to be so focused, and if you set a target, I'd try and do it. You know, try and exceed it. Like it was never about just hitting the target. It was about going as far beyond it as possible. And I got to this point in my career where I wasn't excited by it. You know, and I think part of it comes because my basic salary was particularly high. So although I could more than double my earnings, like when the difference between my basic and making commission, although it was a lot of money, like to my actual standard of living, it didn't really make too much difference. So I didn't feel that motivated or that driven. And it was approaching the time I was supposed to sit down with the MD. They just announced that they'd been bought by a new company. There was a rumble of personnel changes and stuff likely to happen. And I thought, you know what, this is my opportunity. Much to my wife's lack of desire. I don't know if that's quite the right way of putting it. She wasn't a big fan of this decision, but I basically took the decision to give my notice. And I thought, I'm either gonna it's either push or jump at that point. And I had a funny feeling, because things hadn't progressed a great deal with the deals I was working on, that I was basically going to be on borrowed time. And I thought, you know what, you make your own luck in life. And
Totally.
I just took the plunge, and I gave my month's notice just before Christmas in 2019.
Wow.
I finished working for them on like I think it was the 20th or the 19th, had a good like 2.5 weeks off over Christmas. And then from the January in 2020, that was it. Like I was on my own. It was
Wow.
Sink or swim. And yeah, it's been a journey. But the thing that I get, like the biggest kick that I get out of people that I work with is it's seeing mindset changes. Like anybody can achieve fat loss, anybody can achieve muscle growth, anyone can achieve like overall physique changes. But seeing people improve their relationship with food, improve their understanding of basic nutrition, like change their own self-image, the way that they talk about themselves, their confidence. People are starting to achieve like self-belief. Like the amount of times that I've started working with people and they felt like they're beyond help, and they feel like they're almost like their toxic relationship with food and binge and purge cycles is beyond them to break. And when you start to address that and unpick it, and they start to recognize their own success, that's the thing that gives the biggest kick for me. Because like I said, you can achieve results that look great in before and after photos, but it only tells part of the story. If you don't address the underlying relationship with food, the relationship with themselves, their own progress, self-esteem, all of that kind of stuff, you put yourself in a position where any results that you get are artificial, are short term. Whereas if you can address the mindset, if you can address the lifestyle, the understanding, you can create a routine, a lifestyle, a set of behaviors, coping mechanisms, and all of that. All of that stuff that just gets completely overlooked. You create all of that as a foundation so that actually people can achieve long-term success. And it's not that they'll, if they lose weight, they'll never gain weight again in their life. They will, but they'll have the understanding of how to address it before it becomes a problem. And when we start to see people making those changes, that's the bit that like I get a massive buzz out of, because that's the bit that really changes people's lives.
Great, very good. Next question is, what made you laugh last time? Something funny that happened to you?
So the last thing that made me laugh. So that's a good question. Well, to be fair, I made myself laugh today and yesterday when I was on my lives. I seem to encourage quite a lot of trolls. I don't know if it's consistent for everybody. I've never really sort of sat and watched other people's lives to see if other people get trolled like I do. But every time I go live, I will get people trolling. And yesterday was just it seemed like a peculiar one. There was a guy who was very anti-science in every way, shape, or form, and the stuff that he was coming out with was ridiculous. So I was just having a bit of fun with him and just asking very loaded questions to see what his response was. And I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, probably that was the last thing that kind of made me chuckle. Was just witnessing people with very unique thoughts and beliefs, and just posing slightly loaded questions to see how they respond and turn themselves inside out. And it was good. It was good fun.
What was the most let's say surreal question that somebody asked you on your live that were like, oh my god, I'm not sure if I can ask that, it's too personal, or something that you couldn't even go through it?
Quite often the questions that I struggle with are typically the people who are very anti-science, anti-evidence, anti-data. And I get where some people are coming from it, because obviously everybody's reference point that I can see who has that kind of thought process is it's born out of what happened with COVID, with the vaccine and what have you. And I find it incredible that people can witness a set of circumstances that happen and they will blanket create an opinion on an entire subject matter. So they will look at a rapidly mutating virus where there is no referenceability apart from Spanish flu from like 1913. And they see science struggle to keep up with the pace that something changes. And rather than go, that's a wonderful example of how crazy the world is from a scientific perspective, that things can change so rapidly that we struggle as humans to keep up with it. They look at it and go, all science is false. The data is constantly inaccurate, so therefore all science is wrong. And you go, well, that's all well and good, but 90% of what you're applying that logic to is not rapidly mutating contagious viruses. Like you're then applying it to the concept of gravity, which is yet to be disproven since it was discovered in like the 1800s. You then apply it to, again, to my own job, to thermodynamics, discovered in 1850. The way the body uses energy in versus energy out has not been disproven. We've not discovered anything that contradicts that or proves otherwise since 1850. So it's obviously not rapidly mutating and it's not a contagious scenario, but they go, oh, that over there was really hard to understand and grapple, so all science must be wrong. And whenever I get questions along those lines or comments along those lines, it's not that I can't answer them, it's more that I can't understand the logic for why it was asked in the first place. I can't understand how basic science and data can be so readily rejected and discredited by people because it doesn't provide the confirmation bias that perhaps their opinion is after.
Right.
And I find that really hard at times to navigate, because you I don't want to become a judgmental person, but you find yourself sat there thinking like, how in the year 2024 do we have people who believe this? For example, the people who believe the Earth is flat.
Uh-huh.
And you go, well, we've got an awful lot of evidence that would suggest that it isn't. No, it's definitely flat. And you think, how have you got to this stage?
And nowadays, I think this nowadays people they don't believe that somebody has been there to the moon
Yeah,
yet. So they don't. It's like those things that people they never gonna. It's something about it they're never gonna get it, or they don't want to believe it. It's something like out of the world. I don't know.
yeah. And I always find it both fascinating but also completely baffling that
Yeah.
we can be in this situation. I know I went to school with a guy who used to say that he didn't believe in gravity because he couldn't see it. So I always used to ask him if he has the same thought process with the back of his head, because you can't see that either. And he's like, yeah, but I can feel the back of my head. I was like, well, funnily enough, you can feel gravity because that's the thing that keeps you on the floor. Um, but yeah, it's that's probably that's probably the one thing that whenever I get questions along those lines, that I find very difficult, because you just feel like it should be obvious, but apparently it's not to everyone.
Ready for another one?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Next question. As I can see before the next one, I can see you've got a lot of tattoos, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me, which one is the very first one we ever had? Tell me the latest one and also the most meaningful one.
Okay, so the first one I ever had is it's this in the middle of my sleeve, which is unfortunately not in keeping with the sleeve whatsoever, but it was too much black work to try and cover up. So that was the first tattoo I ever had. The amusing thing about it is it also makes an appearance over here in this sleeve, and I'll explain that in a moment. But the girl that's here and the guy that's here was originally I was going to have the guy on this arm and the girl on this arm with like a border around it. So when I put my arms together, it makes a picture. But I was so eager to get my first tattoo. I got it all booked in. We discussed the idea, went in on the day, and just got like I was just like so excited to get it done. The guy was like, "Where are we getting it?" And I was like, "Yep, on my arm." And we put it on, it tattooed it, and then it wasn't until about a week later I was chatting to one of my mates, and he was like, "Oh, I thought you were going to get that like get it done so you could get like a picture." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the wrong way around." So that never happened. So that was my first tattoo. My most recent ones are my hands, and
Okay.
my ones hands and fingers. I was getting my fingers touched up and my hand touched up, literally like last month. So yeah, it's very new. And the most meaningful one I would say is probably on my this side on my ribs. I've got some song lyrics which I got done for my mum. She'd been through sort of like a very difficult situation, suffered a bit of ill health as a result, and it was just a song that always made me sort of think of my mum. So I got the lyrics tattooed because I'm a soppy bastard.
Are you planning for the next one?
Yeah, I'm always planning for the next one. I don't quite know what or where yet. I do like the idea of like a neck tattoo, but it would mean shaving my beard, so I don't think that's ever going to happen. So if I get anything next, it might maybe the back of my neck. I don't know. I'm undecided.
How long did it take for you to grow this beard?
Well, so it used to be a very neat grade 4, similar sort of beard to yourself, really, very neat and tidy, lined up under the chin. But I haven't touched my own beard from a grooming perspective since I was 21, and it went very badly when I tried to tidy up my own beard. That I was 21 the last time I wet shaved, and I had to wet shave because I completely fucked up lining up my own beard. So I vowed that day never to trim my own beard again. So when we went into lockdown, it was very neat and tidy, grade 4, lined up under the chin. And we came out of lockdown, and I shit you not, I didn't touch it the entire time. So after like 6 months, it was just this massive beard. I had a huge handlebar moustache, and then once the barbers had reopened, I gradually trimmed it back shorter and shorter, and we've kind of stuck with this length now. So yeah, 6 months is how long it took to go from pretty much a beard your length to this caveman-esque mess.
Next question for you is, are you a cat or a dog person? And if you could be an animal, which one that would be?
I'm very much a dog person.
Mhm.
Very much a dog person. I've got a dog who's asleep on the sofa next to me.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
we've also got a house bunny who's asleep opposite me. Um,
Wow.
yeah, very much a dog person. I find I've only ever really liked about three cats in my life. The rest of cats, I'm very like, yeah, they're okay. I find the concept of having a pet that you very rarely see and can quite happily be adopted by another household a weird concept. Uh, maybe it makes me a bad person. I like to keep my pets fully hostage.
What's the
um,
name of the dog?
my dog's called Otis.
Wow. Amazing.
But yeah, and if I could be any animal, I know sharks are like my favorite animal, so maybe I'd be a shark.
Mhm. See, cool. 3 questions left. Let's do it. Hey, Paul from England. Next question is, if you could change something about yourself or in yourself, what that would be and why?
Um, I mean, superficially, I'd like to be taller. Um, always wanted to be taller. I feel like
Back to your childhood memories when you were playing
yeah,
basketball.
my football career and being a professional goalkeeper was definitely hampered by the fact that I was short. Um, so being taller would be a good one. I'd like to be less self-critical. I think I have a lot of issues with things like body dysmorphia, self-esteem related issues, and I think in an ideal world, if I could not have that and have a greater appreciation for myself, that would be great. But I also think in a way, as much as those sort of issues that I have in terms of how I view myself are from a negative standpoint, I also think in a way they kind of help because it does strive me to keep trying to like better myself in the gym and that kind of stuff because I'm always more critical of myself and there's always that risk with you know if you're there's always that risk of complacency. I think if you're
Mhm.
completely happy with where you're at and how you are and what you're doing, there's that risk of not striving to do better. And then obviously you can become complacent and go backwards. So I think maybe there's a benefit, like some significant benefits that come from the fact that I'm never happy. um, but at the same time, it would be nice to be a little less self-critical at times. Um,
And where this comes from, this for you to be in this way, that is connected with something about your childhood or something regarding something that bothers you. What does come from when you think about?
yeah, I think it's a combination of things. And again, I'm never like afraid to talk about my own battles with my own mental health. I've had a number of issues with my mental health over the years due to a few different things.
Mhm.
Elements growing up in terms of like relationship with like with my dad and what have you, and relationship with my brother, and then I had a few other situations that I won't
Mhm.
go into today because they're quite quite deep and dark, but that definitely caused significant issues in terms of how I view myself, my own mental
Mhm.
health. So I think it all kind of stems from that, and then obviously like past relationships that have not worked out and
Yeah.
things like that. It all kind of combines, and I think there's always been an underlying sort of thought process of myself of not feeling good enough or like feeling like it must be a reflect when bad things happen it must be a reflection of me rather than a reflection of the other person involved in the situation. So I think that over the years has kind of built up to me being very sort of self-critical of how I feel in terms of things like body dysmorphia. um, that definitely was made worse when I was prepping for physique competitions because
Mhm.
it's a relentless process where every single week you check in, and even if you feel like you're progressing really well, you're paying a small fortune to a coach to basically find the minutest details that need to be improved. So
Mhm.
it's very much you go through a weekly process of working yourself into the ground physically, mentally, and nutritionally. You check in with your coach, you look at your pictures, you look at your measurements and go, yeah, I'm really happy with how it's all coming together. And then your coach's job is to go, here's a load of things that aren't good enough. And that's a reason why I would never compete again on the basis that I've grown up with a belief system about myself of not being good enough, and then
Mhm.
attempting to compete in an attempt to see what I could achieve,
Yeah.
and like how great a physique I could achieve. You end up actually just feeding into that not good enough mindset, So I think, yeah, it's just a combination of different things over the years that have kind of fed into that.
Do you feel right now, do you feel like you are living your best life right now?
Yeah, yeah, definitely do. And I think, again, a big part of that has been the change to go self-employed and to coach and to do what I'm doing, because
Hmm.
I'm now, I feel like I'm living a life that is on my terms.
Yeah.
It was something I really struggled with, particularly towards the end of like being employed in the corporate world. Is the more I felt like I was learning about myself and kind of discovering more about myself as I was going through my 20s, and what have you, you kind of get to a point where I just felt like I'd blindly gone down this career path. And in my early 20s, I was really driven, and I wanted to, I wanted to achieve everything I could in my career, and just threw myself into it head first, and did progress really far, really quickly. And I just kind of got to a point where I was becoming a lot more comfortable with who I was as a person,
Hmm.
and the corporate world didn't really align with that. Like I was becoming acutely aware of the fact that I've got ADHD. I, just the way that I wanted to kind of live my life didn't really lend itself to someone who spent their week suited and booted and did long hours and was driving all over the place and was sitting meetings with CEOs of NHS trusts or housing associations who are particularly well-to-do people, and I was there really just desperately wanting to be sat in a field at a festival covered in tattoos, having the time of my life. And you think these two things don't go together too well. Like, I want to be able to just enjoy my life and feel like I'm proper, like just living life on my terms, but somebody wants me to drive to Manchester at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, and I've got to do that, and I've got to wear a suit, and it didn't quite align with me. So yeah, I definitely feel like now that I'm an online coach, and my biggest headache is, have I posted on TikTok today? I'm definitely living a version of my best life. There's still more to come. There's still things I'd like to achieve professionally
Yeah.
with my business. There's still things that I'd like to achieve from a life perspective. But yeah, I'm definitely much happier doing what I'm doing now.
Two questions left. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, next question is, what do you like to cook the most?
This is a hard question for me. I love cooking, and I like going all out. I like to try and be as adventurous with my cooking as possible. So I won't just do if I'm doing like a steak dinner, I won't
Hmm.
just make like steak and chips and like some mushrooms and stuff. I'll make like a parsnip puree and like parsnip crisps, and I'll do loads of random stuff. So yeah, I like trying to make new things, to be honest with you. I like kind of like pushing my own boundaries and seeing a recipe and just being like, I'm going to try it.
Uh-huh.
Kind of how I am with just life in general. Like, I'll give anything a go and just sort of throw myself into it head first. If it doesn't quite work, my ADHD puts me in a position where I'll probably get really angry, despite the fact that it's illogical to think that you're going to be an expert the first time of doing anything. But um, yeah, when you've got ADHD, your mindset doesn't quite work that way, and you expect yourself to be Gordon Ramsay from minute one. But yeah, so yeah, I'll try to give anything a go. But I think probably, yeah, one of my favorite things to cook um, is cooking a really good steak with all the trimmings. Or
What what's something that you cook that your wife likes the most?
she would probably say my roast dinners.
Yeah.
She would probably say a roast dinner.
Wow. Beautiful. Last question. Ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. Last question. But before the last question, two questions in one. The first part is, do you think that with the COVID, the online coaching, like literally like became really popular? Like, because I remember at the time, during the COVID, I remember like personal trainers, people, doing some online classes, like teaching a lot of things. And before that, I don't remember if it was that, popular before. And the other part of the question is, what do you find most challenging about your business, your career?
Um, so yeah, so I mean, COVID definitely helped. So I was coaching online, obviously before that. because I was doing it alongside a full-time job, so I had no option but to coach online. So for me, it wasn't a big change. It worked quite nicely. I'd literally just gone self-employed in the January. We went into lockdown in like the March, and the world completely changed. But thankfully, my business was already set up to
Right.
work in that manner, so it was quite fortunate. But it definitely brought online coaching to the forefront because traditionally before that, a lot of PTs felt that to offer the best value, they had to be in the gym and they had to
Mm-hmm.
be face to face. I think a lot of clients as well felt that they got the best value for money working with somebody in a gym. And I think COVID highlighted to people that actually when you pay a PT and you work with them in the gym, um, and this isn't necessarily applicable to absolutely everybody, but the majority of the time, if you're paying for PT sessions, you're paying for somebody to kind of count reps and tell you what machine you're going on next and to say you're doing a great job. And in my opinion, if you're investing large sums of money on somebody to help you get in better shape, you deserve more than paying for somebody to count your reps and tell you you did a great job today. There's more to it than what you do physically in the gym. So I think COVID really helped highlight to people actually the value that can come from working with an actual coach in an online capacity
Yeah.
to support the accountability and everything that goes around it. I think people started to see the value in that because they were forced to. Basically, they weren't able to say, "Oh, I'm just gonna I'm gonna pay for a block of sessions and see somebody once a week and then wonder why in 6 months' time nothing's changed."
Mm-hmm.
It kind of put them in a position where it's like actually this is the only way to work with people. And I think people started to see actually both from a coaching perspective that you can offer so much more value, but also from a client perspective that you get so much more working with coaches in that perspective. So it definitely helped change the shape and the landscape of coaching in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest challenge now is it's going to sound weird to say it because all my business comes through TikTok, but it's social media. It's the fact that people can grow a following by posting engaging content that maybe doesn't offer much value but is visually appealing, and then because of the size of their following can position themselves as an expert, whether they're qualified or experienced or not. And there's a lot of what I like to call the overnight coaches who are have got massive followings and they post fitness related content but aren't actually qualified, but they're now taking on clients because they've realized they can monetize their following. There's also a lot of people who have massive followings who deliberately share misinformation to push their particular agenda to make it easier to monetize their following. And again, credibility is often determined by follower count and physique rather than evidence or qualification or experience from that perspective. So I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge, is trying to, particularly for me, because of the way that I work, as you've probably seen from my content, like I call out misinformation, and there's no pages that I wouldn't call out. If somebody's got 4 million followers, if what they're sharing is incorrect, I'll call it out. If somebody's got 25 followers, if what they share is incorrect information, like I will call it out. I don't discriminate from that perspective. Like if you share information, there's a chance that and somebody sends it to me and says, look, can you do a video on this? I'll do it. But the big challenge that I've got as an evidence-based coach is the amount of people who do share what they know to be misinformation, but they share it with a lot of conviction that makes people believe that what they're saying must be completely accurate. It then creates almost cult-like followings,
Mm-hmm.
where logic and reason goes out the window. It's like I was saying with the guy on my live yesterday that didn't believe any science is trustworthy. There are a lot of people who will completely dismiss any evidence that doesn't provide them confirmation bias if it contradicts what their favorite influencer has told them. And that's a really hard thing to address in the industry because social media it's a popularity contest, and credibility at the moment seems to hinge not on the quality of information but on the number of followers. And it's a hard one, but the only thing that I can do is control the information that I put out. I can't stop people from sharing misinformation. All I can do is highlight it, and that seems to be working okay for me at the moment. So
It's interesting you saying that, Paul, because I had a lovely man, a fitness coach, online coach as well, from New York City, and he's been a long career, doing a very professional. And he said the same thing as well about the followers, about people following those overnight, as you said, coaches or fitness trainers. And he said exactly the same thing as well. That's people, they tend to because of the popularity, they tend to follow them or to believe what's happening, and it's not never or ever the same, the right way of what they are teaching or what they are exposing there. Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating, and it's one of those things. The only way to really address it would be to bring in a way of regulating the industry to ensure evidence-based information and what have you. But again, it's such a hard thing to do, because who would regulate it? You then need to look at an independent body to do so. You've then got, because there's so many different methods of applying the baseline principles behind each goal and what have you. You're then going to have debates from each side of the coin in terms of who they choose to be an independent regulator, what jurisdiction they have, that kind of stuff. So it makes it really difficult to manage and police. But in a way, I feel like that would be the only way to kind of clear it up would be to bring in some core standards that you need to be qualified to a certain level to give any advice.
Yes.
Full stop. If you haven't got the right level of qualification and insurance to give out information, because that always used to be the case. They used to kind of state when you qualify as a PT that unless you did further qualifications in nutrition, you couldn't give nutrition advice, because your PT insurance doesn't cover you for it. But that seems to have gone out the window, certainly with the emergence of social media, where just about anybody can sell just about anything and say just about anything to sell it. The situation is definitely worse from that perspective, and the only way to really address it would be some form of regulation of the industry. But it's a difficult one, because again, the industry is worth billions of pounds, and if you regulate it, there's probably a lot of businesses that would go out of business, because they wouldn't be able to survive if they weren't allowed to share their pseudoscience based information, to put it politely.
All right, last question for you is, what's the funniest or the most memorable gift have you ever received?
That's a good question. I would say probably my watch is right up there. That was my wedding present from my wife.
Wow.
So that's probably one of the most significant. But yeah, I mean, over the years, there's probably loads of different gifts that at the time probably didn't feel too significant, but have played like quite a big part. Like I'm quite a keen golfer, so like obviously my first set of golf clubs would be again at the time probably didn't feel that substantial, but given how much I play golf now and what have you, that's a big factor, because had I not received those, I probably wouldn't play and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say in terms of like sentimental value, that's probably right up there.
Wow. And you're wearing now?
Yeah, amazing. I wear it all the time, which is bittersweet. I've got a collection of about 14 watches upstairs in a nice watch box, and all the batteries have died on them, on the basis that from the minute I've had this watch, I've not worn any other watches since. So yeah, I feel bad for my collection of designer watches just sat there collecting dust.
Of course, it's one of the most meaningful ones. Of course, you need to wear it the most of the time you can. Of course, makes sense. Amazing. So it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game. Okay, I'm going to give away some words. Just tell one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking. Let's start with money.
I was going to say happiness, but also stress.
Okay. Fear.
The first word that came to mind was weakness, but I actually feel like that's not the right word. But that's
no right, wrong. Whatever comes to your mind, they're not right, wrong. One word for family.
Safety.
Life.
Fun.
Love.
Happiness.
Religion.
Questionable.
Okay. Sex.
Pleasure.
Politics.
It's two words. Absolutely.
It's going to be absolutely P.
Yeah.
Desire.
So what was that one, sorry?
Desire.
Dreams.
Friendship.
Laughter.
Regret.
Mistakes.
Success.
Perseverance.
I like that. Wish.
Dream.
Happiness.
Smile.
One word for Dorset.
Perfect.
Wow. I like it. One word for England.
I've already sworn once. No. Home.
Whew. Right, one word for online coaching.
Passion.
And the last one now, I'm gonna get right. The Redfine Academy, one word.
Excellent.
Okay. Let's pretend I'm going to meet your wife for a coffee and I'm going to ask her, define Paul in one positive word and one negative word only. What she would say?
Oh, good question. Positive word, she would probably say happy.
Okay.
Negative word, she would probably say untidy.
If I would ask the same question to your lovely mom, would be the same answer?
She'd probably say happy as the positive. The negative, stubborn, she would probably say.
Can be positive as well, stubborn, depending how stubborn, how it goes.
Yeah.
Let's play now, Paul in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. Right, so before you ask me the question, briefly through your career, since you start your journey as an online coach, tell me a situation or a moment that you're never going to forget. For any reason, always going to have a special place in your heart.
I mean, to be fair, since coaching, there's been a lot. I would say the start of this year, I wrote a book. So I've self-published and put a book out. And when I got into coaching, that was never the intention was never to write a book. But it kind of happened. And I think that the moment I'll never forget is when I checking how many copies I'd sold and seeing that not only had I sold some copies, but I sold one of the first books I sold was outside of the UK.
Wow.
And yeah, just that will be something that will stick with me for forever, because it was never really on the career goal like when I went into coaching to write a book on fitness and fat loss, but to have done it and then to not only have sold obviously a good number of copies, but to have I've sold them in 4 countries now.
Wow.
And I've coached in 16 countries. Again, that's something I never really anticipated. I thought I would be a coach and just work with people in my local area pretty much. So I guess those two things, the fact that I've worked with people is literally all over the world, and people have bought my book all over the world. It's like, it still blows my mind.
Wow. Where is your book? By your side or not? Do you have it easily?
It's just there. I can grab a copy if you want to see it.
Yeah, please.
I'll grab it very quickly. This is the book.
How to Stop Being a Fat.
Don't worry, you didn't say. It is available under a different title, a slightly more PC title for those who are easily offended. But yeah, that's my book.
I love it. Right, you can ask me a question now, Paul.
So I think that the question that's been going through my mind is what's your vision for this podcast? Like what got you into it, and where do you see it going?
Right. Do you have another 2 hours to talk about?
Yeah, far away.
No, very, very briefly. Paul. The same. I could feel your energy, like when you talk about your journey as a fitness coach, how much you appreciate, and you meant to be in this career. You meant to be doing that, and it's the same. I can tell the same as well. The magic box came along during the COVID when the world went upside down, and I was literally. Do you remember we could leave the house once a day for a run or exercise? One of those runs this come across, and I was like, oh my, I was already thinking about doing something on YouTube, but I wasn't sure what. I just want to do something where I could connect with people. I could connect, express myself, and let my guests express themselves as well, but I didn't know what I could do. And one of those runs, this idea came along, and I was like, wow, that's something that it meant to be for me. And I just remember that I'm recording when I look here, because for me, I feel like talking to a friend. I've got a lot of projects, not a lot, but I've got a few that I still want to do it, to connect with the Magic Box. I would like to do another a different way, as a different podcast, different topics, people expressing themselves in a different way. I'd like to do one-to-one as well, like in person. Also, something that I will do one day is to get my guests. I have already over 1,000 people who already participate in the show, and I can't wait to go around the world and meet those people and go through some stories, because some people here, they shared so many interesting stories, bad, difficult, challenge, beautiful ones, good memories as well. And I can't wait to do something that I could connect with them, and also go more into their stories. And I think would be a documentary or something like that. I think there's so many ways to explore the magic box, and I think yes, it's like opening there. There are so many things that I would like to explore more about the show. And I see myself doing this magic box in a bigger proportion, where more people can be part of it as well, and expose the show more and more often around the world. So that's the whole idea of the show, and it's amazing to be so able to connect with so many people around the globe and let people share memories. And it's the best. If I would see someone doing that, I would be like, wow, I would like to be doing that. So yeah, that's the joy of the magic box, to see everyone here just being themselves. Yeah,
I love it. No, it's awesome.
amazing. Did you enjoy the interview?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I really liked it.
Thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks for being so kind and take the time for the interview. But before you go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
Yeah, 2 seconds. My bunny rabbit and my dog were about to fight. So I think the positive message that I'd like to share. I think there's a lot of pressure on people to adhere to social norms, to kind of put themselves to look a certain way, or to have it all figured out, to know what it is that you're doing in life, and to achieve great things by such a young age. And I think there's too much pressure on people these days. Social media creates a highlight reel, and if you're not achieving what your favorite influencer is achieving in half the time, like, you're failing. And I think actually people just need to take a step back, and you get one go on this earth. We get one time going around the sun, and the key thing is do what you enjoy. Like, live on your own terms, live by your own timelines. I was 30 when I decided to leave the corporate world and go self-employed. Like, a lot of a lot of people, by the time they're 30, feel like they need to be completely settled, career, family, and everything all in one place. And you don't. It will happen when it's ready to happen. The key thing is to do the things that make you happy, and not put yourself under pressure. Don't try and live a life because society tells you that you have to. Live a life that makes you happy. And yeah, I think that's that's the key to long-term happiness, is doing things on your terms. And I appreciate that it is a bit of an ideology, because with things like cost of living and what have you, it's times are difficult, and sometimes you end up in a position where you have to do a job that you don't enjoy, and it makes it hard to get that balance. But if you can find one thing each day that you can do for yourself to bring yourself some happiness, do it. Focus on it. Take that time to enjoy it, and then the more you focus on the good, on the positives, the happier you feel, the more positives you notice, and the more you can affect positive change in your overall life. But yeah, I think just try not to get like forced into feeling like you have to do something because society tells you to do something. If it doesn't align with you, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, it's not for me.
I like that, Paul, and I strongly believe that there are no rules. I think, though, there are no rules. You need to follow whatever is good for you. I think, as you said, when you get to a certain age, you need to be doing this or need to have achieved that, and it doesn't work like that. I think everyone has a different path, everyone has a different story, everyone has a different way or how to get somewhere. And as long as you said, as long as you are happy, as long as you feel that you are going to the right direction, why not? It doesn't matter how long this takes, it doesn't matter how slow you or how fast you are going. You just enjoy the journey, and you're gonna get somewhere that's meant to be for you. If
Yeah,
it's meant to be for you, it will find a way to get to you somehow.
absolutely. And I think on that, it just reminds me of a phrase that I really like, and that's that he who enjoys the journey will travel further than he who enjoys the destination. And
I love it.
I think that's really important. Like, enjoy what you're doing every day, and you'll go far further than if you're just focused on the end goal.
Totally.
Not least because if you only focus on the end goal, every day that you're not there is a day you're more likely to quit because you'll be frustrated you haven't reached that destination yet. Whereas if you just enjoy the journey,
Hmm.
you enjoy it for all that it has to offer, and before you know it, you've reached your goal.
Totally.
You potentially decide to push on beyond that. So yeah, that would be my part.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thanks for the interview, Paul.
Brilliant.
Thanks so much. Regards to your wife, to your family, and you keep in touch. It was a pleasure. Okay? Take
Cheers.
care. Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye. So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye. See you next time.